Hi, my name is Dan Chesnut, and we are all defined by what we do. This story describes the design details and construction of an adult treehouse with all the bells and whistles. You know, I have pictures to take you through the building process, which covers a 3-year period of time that started back in 2007. Building a treehouse requires both a proper sense of timing and dogged determination. You do not want your spouse staring with disdain at a half-completed project for years to come. I want to share my experience, building tips, and failures that have occurred due to faulty hardware and weather. You are bound to see it all over a 10-year period. And now, here's a building tip. Success is built on flexibility, incorporating change, and executing a plan B to benefit from a course correction if you need to use it. Building a treehouse has always been my hobby. The schooling I had consisted of high school drafting classes, a college degree in general engineering, and a local community college shed building class. This schooling gave me the technical background necessary to design and build the structure. I also tapped the expertise of former colleagues for advice and resources. And here's a building tip. This is a great example of a situation on a project that exceeds your capabilities. In fact, in this case, it exceeded mine. So you will add the personnel with the skill sets or the resources necessary to help you be successful. How do you complete a difficult project? Well, you simply solve one problem after another until you are finished. And that was my mindset. Now I'm ready to take you through the initial design phase for the treehouse. We will also cover the treehouse foundation, platform, and the deck. Follow me. The process of building a treehouse begins with the important decision of what trees to build around. I was lucky enough to have 6 sassafras trees in my backyard, which were close together and leaned in different directions. Next, I had to select the attachment points. I used string to identify points of attachment on each tree. Then I ran the string from the identified anchor point between each tree to ensure they were level. I laid out 3 12-foot lightweight angle irons that would simulate the treehouse beams. Then I added 2 20-foot angle irons the length of the sides to help me visualize the layout of the treehouse platform and the attached deck. And now here's a building tip. Minimize the amount of contact on the trees will help preserve them and ensure their longevity. I always remember safety. I'm standing here on a secured platform, but it is outside the rails of the deck. So by choice, I wear a safety harness and attach my rope to an overhead safety line right here. Now we are ready to start. The foundation for any structure is important because it will determine the longevity of your building, and tree houses are no exception. I use a galvanized 3/4 inch diameter lag screw right here. That's only 6 inches long to make my point of attachment in the trees. I attach a D-shackle to the head of the lag screw and then wrap the thimble of a 3/8 inch diameter cable around the large red pin. Cable goes down to the anchor shackle. The anchor shackle, large red pin, which is right here, goes through the eye bolt, which has a neck that goes through a hole in the tree hanger. And 2 nuts underneath are attached. These nuts prevent the eye bolt neck from going through the hole. This hardware configuration is used on all 14 points of attachment. However, I had a hardware failure. The neck of the eye bolt snapped and the beam dropped 12 feet to the ground. Thanks to the redundancy of cables and the attachment points, the Treehouse survived the failure, and I was able to reattach the beam and level out the structure. The muscle behind every Treehouse are the beams. If put up correctly, they will allow you to build successfully in the trees. There are 4 double beams located under the Treehouse and deck platforms. The individual beams are 2x10s and they're 16 feet long. I was concerned about their uniformity and distinction. So I made a template to duplicate the ends and locations of the carriage bolts, which you see here and here. I used 9 bolts in each beam, 3 on the ends and 3 in the middle. And here's the reasoning for that setup. And it's a building tip. 2 beams are better than 1, and bolting them together would minimize any kind of bowing in all directions. I designed the tree hangers, and a friend of mine cut, bent, and welded the 1/4-inch steel to make these. And they were sized to allow the double beams to slide through them. All right, now we're going to look at that failure that I had with my hardware. And we're going to go up here to the beam. Because it was the eye bolt that goes into my tree hanger that's secured by 2 bolts that snapped. And then this beam right here, in fact it was this one, swung down 12 feet to the ground. This whole cantilever section increased from here down to the next beam. So when your cantilever gets that big, all this weight dropped down probably an easily 2 feet. And it was held on by the other beams. So luckily I had multiple points of attachment. But the corrective action here was to use 1/4-inch chain, wrap it around the beam, and bring it up to a turnbuckle. And then the turnbuckle, I locked it into, I had established a new anchor point. That secured the attachment. I had to use 3 300-pound block and tackles to lift up this edge, the end of the Treehouse, so that I'd be able to level out the beam. All right, thank you. We're going to move on. I had drawings to determine my floor frame requirements, so I decided to build the Treehouse floor frame on my patio instead of 12 feet in the trees. However, I realized that the trapdoor had a requirement that doubled the studs on the frame, which increased the weight. I decided to minimize the weight by installing the trapdoor frame after the floor frame was hoisted into the trees. Here's a building tip. In order to expedite the assembly in the trees, I installed the double joist hangers on the patio so that the installation of the frame's center portion would be quick and simple in the trees. I used a hoist to position the floor frame on the beams. Once I was satisfied that it was in the correct resting position, it was time to hoist the first of 3 sheets of plywood into the 8-foot wide by 12-foot long Treehouse platform. The plywood had been stained and polyurethane was added to increase the longevity. The plywood sheets and the floor frame were checked together on the patio before moving them to the trees. Here's a building tip. It's difficult to fix errors once you are 12 feet in the trees. I always try to remember to always check twice and cut once. It's better to think proactive than to need problem solving in a pinch later on. I am under the deck at the highest point, which is 14 feet. I'm here to show you the special framing that's used at floor openings for a trapdoor or a tree. Specifications require that a double header be used at both ends of the opening. These headers are then framed by double joist trimmers on both sides and usually running the length of the deck. I use double joist hangers to secure the double headers and trimmers. You can also see typical blocking or bridging that's installed alternating between the joists at midspan. Blocking is installed to increase the strength, and it's mounted flush with the top of the deck frame. Here's a building tip. If there are squirrels in the area, then use hard and flexible gray tubing to protect your electrical wires. Squirrels will go after the small gauged, unprotected wire and chew it up. So you can see the gray, hard, flexible conduit used to protect the wires that feed the outlets and light switches. The accessories on a treehouse give it character and distinction. The trapdoor and rope ladder are one of the first accessories to plan. It's added to the drawings, and the follow-up steps are included in the planning stages. I improved the plywood floor and the trapdoor by adding hardwood flooring. The rope ladder is just an extension of escape routes that kids would want to use. The trick is to anchor the bottom two legs of the rope. Otherwise, the rope ladder would be extremely difficult to climb. I'm going in. Yeah, right now I'm showing you the cable suspension allows the whole treehouse to move with the trees. It's got a lot of movement left. Nothing better than a windstorm at night with the treehouse moving. Okay, this ends our first episode on the foundation plan for treehouse construction. Please see us at chesnuttreehouse.com for Chesnut Treehouse Building Services. Thank you very much.